That's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about a permanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just the matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Good evening, ladies, gentlemen, and D-gentlemen of all ages. Welcome back to your book club on Friday night here at the D-Gen Roundtable. I'm your host, Zenith. I'm joined by my excellent co-host, as always, Will. And tonight, you are here for another installment of Zenith Accidentally Tortures the Entire Team with another heavy macroeconomics book.
My god, bro, it was so fucking heavy. It was so fucking heavy. I am yoked. My back has never been stronger.
Yeah, well, the great irony is that I accidentally saved us a little bit because as Will and I were texting this morning, I shot him a message and said, I accidentally recommended the wrong Frederick von Mises book. I was thinking I wanted to read Human Action, and instead we read Theory of Money and Credit, which, hear me out, still a very good book. It covers a lot of the same basic economic principles, but this one was written in like 1912, I want to say. And it kind of does the right before
something fascinating happened.
Yeah. Good old World War One. But what this book actually does is it kind of gives you a little bit of an explanation or the theory and thinking behind a lot of macroeconomic principles that we've covered in a ton of other books. But this is the guy that actually did a pretty decent job of explaining it. But as I mentioned, this book, only 18 hours long. The one that I wanted to read, Human Action, turns out that one is about 48 hours on Audible. So I effectively saved us an entire almost day and a half by my mistake. But nonetheless, I'm excited. This is a hard book to read and understand. I completely understand, but at the same time,
are you excited, bro?
I am, because I've spent a good amount of time on the notes for tonight and actually tried to break out what matters and kind of what doesn't, because our favorite German author translated into English. Fun fact, he's a big fan of math and trying to put things in algebraic formulas, which to the layman is gobbledygook, especially when you're reading on an audiobook at 2 times speed. But we'll be breaking down all that. Anyways, Will, good to see you, buddy. What is new and exciting with you?
Oh, life is good, man. I got a job offer, and I accepted it from the cell tower company up here in New Hampshire. So back to making money during this this bear market. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty nifty. I just did my DOT physical the other day. I drove 2.5 hours south to go take care of that. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of work with AI recently. This morning I created an entire AI. Actually, I could show you, I suppose. I made an online book kind of for the actuator protocol. So I'll just actually, no, I don't need to show you guys. You guys know how the actuator protocol works. If you don't know how the actuator protocol works and you want to know how the actuator protocol works, then go to t.me/actuator protocol explained. And you will find all of my notes. I have 20 separate PDFs that just run everybody through the ringer of what is the actuator protocol, what is an HSI, how do you use it, how do you delegate your hex stakes to the actuator protocol, because everyone's been talking about it recently and a lot of people don't know what it is, and a lot of people have been asking me because they know that myself and Brendan have done numerous shows on it. So this morning I sat on my phone and I pulled out ChatGPT and I gave it a good fucking 30-minute speech on what I know about the actuator protocol. And I don't know all the crazy technical stuff. I just know a lot of the use case and the applicability and the general broad scope knowledge. And so I had ChatGPT and we went through each and every single little bullet point, and we had a PDF made, and diagrams made, and like lots of flow charts and lots of cool things that show people like what they can do with the bull market using the actuator protocol, what you can do in the bear market, how you can delegate your hex stakes, like what every part and piece is. So if you guys want to find out more about the actuator protocol, it's t.w/actuator protocol explained, all one word, and super duper simple. So there you guys go. It's a full product. I actually made it because Jeff from the DGen protocol asked me this morning. He's like, yo, dude, how do you do the actuator protocol? What is it? And I was like, man, you're sending me down a rabbit hole. So I've had a whole bunch of people ask me. And so I've just been like, I've been splitting it a whole bunch. And it's like, hey, instead of me like, fucking shooting hot air at you over and over again to a bunch of different people, I'll just give them a link to this thing that I spent a long time making. So now it's like I've done the work on the front end, and anybody that wants to learn about the actuator, I'd be happy to walk them through it, but they have to do the work of learning about it using this tool that I've made. So yeah, that's what I've been up to, broski, and doing a lot of like Dungeons and Dragons analysis. So like anyways, I used AI to analyze the 14 meetups that we've had for the D&D stuff, and just like read through the entire transcript of like all of our 4-hour sessions of every single battle we've done, every single thing that we've done, and just analyze each individual player, both as like the player in the game and the person that controls the player. Like how much is this guy pontificating, much like I am right now, sucking all the air out of the room and just speaking for loads and loads of periods of time. But anyways, I just had AI do a whole bunch of efficiency stuff, and yeah, I've been doing great, man. Life's good. What about you? What have you been up to? I see that you are extra cherry flavored today.
Yeah, it may be part today because I sat out on the porch when I was doing some of the old work from home while taking care of the elderly cat sleeping next to me. I got a new chair.
Oh,
So we went full
did,
office
didn't you?
style. We got rid of the gamer-esque chair.
Okay.
But outside of that, yeah, we also had the old company picnic on Wednesday, and I was not ready for how sunny it was going to be. And yes, that's how we get the nice coloring. It's not
Hell
the
yeah.
lights. That's my face.
He's been dipped in the strawberry sauce. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
I like
do
it,
want
bro.
to ask you, by the way, what AI tools are you using for all the stuff you're doing?
It's ChatGPT, man. ChatGPT and Plod.
Really?
So Plod is it's a transcript creating and voice analysis tool. I use Plod a lot for DGen Roundtable book club stuff as well. Like while I'm listening to a book, I'll also be screen recording the actual thing, stealing the copyrightable material, and then I run it through.
Our copyright.
Yeah, and so then I run the audio system through Plod AI, which will pull the transcript, and then like you can run it through different types of analysis and stuff. So I basically just use the premium version of ChatGPT that I pay for, and then I use the Plod that I pay for. And so those are the big ones that I use. I don't use Claude. I don't use any of the ones where it's like you have a certain number of tokens to do things for. I just use the basic bitch subscription ones, and I've gotten pretty decent at AI. I don't vibe code or anything, but just like learning how to give it prompts so where it can work in small chunks and turn out really easy products. I also use AI to make the thumbnails and the descriptions for the show, which like if you guys can't tell, then shame on you. They're definitely very quickly turned out. Like shout out to Mrs. McGettit. She put a lot of heart and soul in the making of these thumbnails for this show back when she was our producer. But no longer. Now I make them.
Put some heart and soul into some of the shit post thumbnails that I made as well. But I too have shifted to a bit of AI. But that's interesting that you're really only just using ChatGPT and Plod.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have been messing around a little bit. I got the itch to play some Magic with my friends, so I was looking at cards and I was like, I kind of just want to get some proxies because I don't know if I actually want the decks or not. And then the tool that I've been using is actually called Reality Fabricator.
Okay.
So if you go to rfab.ai, this is that website.
Ooh.
Their image and video generation I have found is pretty darn good, especially if you want to do kind of like anime stuff. So in particular, I made stuff like this. So card called Gamble, and I wanted some better art for it. And then
that's not too shabby.
Will, and then land tax. Got some cats stealing the guy's fish. So
you've made like a card game.
Cards for an existing card game. These are all Magic
okay.
cards that do exist. I just wanted better art of my own that I thought was funny.
Oh,
But
that's cool.
yeah, RFab's actually pretty sweet. They have a lot of cool tools on here. It's token based, so you get like 25,000 free tokens per day. You can buy, I think it's like 500,000 for like $5 or $10 or something. So it's not super expensive, but they have a lot of stuff. They actually have like D&D campaigns where you can have it run campaigns for you. They have vibe coding, which I've heard is pretty good. They actually have an entire like VTuber model generator on here. So if you want to try to generate one through AI, it's not going to be the fanciest, but it'll at least get you going in that
Oh,
sphere.
is that
You
the
can do that.
thing where people make like an AI caricature of themselves while they're streaming, and
It's,
instead of being like a neckbeard, it's like some fucking little cat hair, this,
yes,
that, and
pretty
the other
much, but
thing?
it's not active AI
Okay.
generating. It's have you ever seen like the Hollywood behind the scenes stuff where they put like dots all over people's faces and do the
Yeah,
motion tracking?
mocap.
It-
Yeah.
It's basically that, and then this just produces the model that shows on screen that tracks your face and that kind of stuff. But
Okay.
a few other ones that are actually pretty cool. They have a recipe generator here, which is like you can kind of tell it what you have in your fridge and it'll come up with like recipes for you.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then
I need that link like right now. Actually, you should tell me that before I forget to ask you. What is that place called?
rfab.ai.
rfab.ai. Okay.
Yeah. But this is actually
AI
probably the most
tools.
powerful thing that they've built right here called the super search. What they did is they smashed together like 5 or 6 different AIs. And the whole point of it is that whenever you try to ask an AI a question, if it is hallucinating, because you're sending it out to like 5 different models,
Yeah.
theoretically, because you're getting a handful of different AIs doing it, it'll be able to pick out which one is hallucinating and get rid of the bad answers.
Oh, Black Sheep does something like that. He calls it his council.
There
Where
you go.
where
Yeah.
what was that called again? That specific that product?
That one is super search.
Super Search. Okay. So Super
Yeah.
Search is the AI council. That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Recipe
they actually
generator
have like
and
historical you can have like companions and chatbots that are based on like historical personas and like have read their works and like try to like do their best to understand like what they would say so you can have like conversations with them. That's another
uh-huh.
pretty cool feature as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, amigo. I cannot answer the phone right now. I am streaming.
We streaming.
I'll call you back. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
I know.
It never fails, bro. I never get calls until I start streaming. That's like
And then
something about 8 p.m. Eastern every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. I mean, Friday, got to get down on Friday. Yeah, it's just, yeah, God, Rebecca Black was
reference,
ahead of her
sir.
time. What's that?
That's a deep reference right there.
It's an old meme, sir, but it still checks out, I believe.
Yes, sir,
Actually,
it
I
does.
have that. I have that on my saved photos right next to like the campfire stories. It's like within my favorites. Bam.
Yeah. So back at the old military school, we would have to do drill practice on Friday mornings at 7 o'clock, baby, and everybody freaking hated it.
Uh-huh.
So some of us in our
Oh
company
no,
would
7
just like,
o'clock.
well, we were up since 6 anyways at our mandatory breakfast, which was honestly trash. But just got to bump some Rebecca Black Friday, and then some people vibe with it. Other people fucking hated it, and it
Oh,
just
yeah.
made it even worse, which was even funnier for us. So.
Yes. Oh, that's lovely.
Alrighty. Anyways, that's enough of the chit chat. Let's talk about what we're doing here today. So,
Is it enough of the chit chat?
not quite. We have a little more chit chat, actually. Thank you.
It's time for the chat motherfucking shout outs, ladies and germs. Hell yeah.
Here we go. Already, number one DGen of the evening coming in, Mr. Slide 180 with the cheers. Good to see you, sir. I got the usual, the New Mexico standard. Yeah, Will, grab a drink. Grab a drink.
Yeah, I have to get a drink.
You might need it for tonight. I'm not gonna...
Oh yeah, we got this fucking long ass book, dog. We're gonna need
I'll put it this way: if this is any indicator what kind of a book we're talking about tonight, I already got 2 beers ready, and there may be a third by the end of the night.
This is certainly a 2 beers kind of book. All right, I'm grabbing a bush latte for the immediate solution of drink control, but I also am going to be having some coffee with not Bailey's, but what's the knockoff for Bailey's? Emmett's classic liqueur. So
there you go.
basically the same thing.
a little bit of my white monster to go as well. Anyways, Josh, good to see you, buddy. Hope you're doing well. Up next, Mr. Oxen9 saying, "What up, all? Good to see you, sir." Good buddy of ours, Centurion 54X, aka 54 Cent himself. What's up, D-Gens? Not much. This is what we're doing. I'll be honest. Group of friends of mine were like, "Hey, you want to come check out this new speakeasy on a Friday night with us?" And I was like, "Sorry, boys, I'm booked. I'm talking about Austrian economics on stream tonight." And they rightfully looked at me like I was a crazy person.
Yeah, bro, we are certainly not sane to be doing this on this wonderful night. My God. Did you get Ox?
I did. I got Ox.
Oxen? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
What's
That
up,
is
Ox?
all we got for the chat shoutouts for the evening. So,
All right.
that being said, what are we doing here tonight? All right.
What?
Friedrich von Mises, a German economist back in the early 1900s, even was alive during the 1800s. He is one of the principal authors of the Austrian School of Economics. Notably, the Austrian School of Economics includes people like Hayek and some of the other folks, Adam Smith. I bet you if you asked Thomas Sowell where he fits, he would call himself an Austrian economist as well.
Yeah.
Notably, they are kind of the opposite side of the coin from John Maynard Keynes and the School of Economics that he fostered right around the same time.
Communists,
You're not entirely wrong.
as I would call them.
One of the great fun facts of it is that John Maynard Keynes and Friedrich Hayek, not the author of this book, but the author of The Road to Serfdom, which we have previously read, those guys actually served in the army in World War I together. They actually knew each other, or at least that's how the historical fiction goes. So it's real interesting that we got the two schools of thought that come out of these guys that literally talk to each other and came up with separate ideas. Famously, Keynesian economics is kind of like the business cycle idea where there are good times and bad times, and the government, as the number one largest possible spender in the world, this is back in the early 1900s, by the way, so they would just be blown away by what we're capable of today. But they believe that the government at the time had the ability to stimulate the economy during bad times and then ease off during good times to let the economy kind of do its thing when it's going well. Sounds great in theory.
How'd that turn out?
We've tried it. We're really bad at the whole easing off in good times thing. And instead we just put pedal to the floor and just keep pouring money on. And it kind of makes it worse. And that's where you get the Austrian School of Economics, which is the book that we're talking about tonight. One of the big critiques of Keynesian economics is the Austrian School of Economics, where they say, look, you can try to do that whole Keynesian thing, but you're actually making the markets worse. You are distorting the inputs and the signals that the market is getting, and you are actually making the crashes bigger than they need to be. Part of this does deal with government policy, but a good chunk of it actually is also the money supply as well. So in particular, you're not going to be surprised that we're talking about the gold standard tonight and how von Mises is actually a pretty big proponent of the gold standard, because it is, if it's the government and it's fiat, they can print it out of nowhere. But if it's gold, you can't just print that out of nowhere. You actually got to go find more gold. We will get into some of those critiques later. But that is the basic overview of what we're looking at. I'm going to go ahead and get into the summary real quick. So major ideas of the book, they kind of come in order. Number one, we have the idea of subjective value. What is the value of an object? Von Mises actually argues that the value of an object is individualistic and determined by the individual that is making it. So trying to assign value, especially in a barter economy, is very difficult, because he has a kind of a famous example. He's like, if you're a farmer and you have 2 cows and 3 horses, and I told you you can only have one of these, which one do you want? He's like, oh, I'll take a cow. Okay, you can have 2. He's like, how about a cow and a horse? All right, now you get 3, cow and 2 horses. And then ultimately, it shifts over once you have a cow, 3 horses. Then if you get a 5th animal, you want another cow. And it's showing that pretty much at any given point, depending on what's going on around you, your valuation of what an object's worth is subjective. And as a part of that, sure, we can try to attach price tags to everything, but everything is based on individuals. This is where he really dives into this on his other book, Human Action, where he talks about macroeconomics is kind of stupid. It's all microeconomics that just works together, because you can't have collective action. You can only have individuals that act, and then you can notice trends across large groups of people. Different book, not this book, but that's kind of where you get the idea. Number 2, we have the regression theorem. This is one of the squares that he circles when it comes to economic thought, so to speak, which is that people ask, why do things have value? And instead of kind of answering the question by being the thing has value because it has value, he says, no, actually, let's look at what it bought yesterday. So he kind of goes from this logical train of always trying to think in the moment about like, why is this thing worth this other thing, worth this other thing, worth the original thing? He says, let's look at it and try to go back historically. When he does that, what you eventually find is that the things that were used as money or currency at the time had an original value or use case that was the good itself. In the case of like lumber, it's valuable because you can build stuff out of it. Food's valuable because you can consume it. And gold, the famous currency, if you will, was valuable because you could actually make jewelry out of it. Ultimately, this is kind of one of the big like questions of the time that he actually comes up with a sufficient answer. Granted, people also have critiques of this answer, which we will get to, but this is one of his biggest claims to fame is solving the regression theorem, or the circularity question, if you will. Number 3, we got money is not neutral. Changes the money supply affect different people at sectors at different times. This is where we kind of get one of the first iterations of the idea that when you inject money into an economy, it doesn't go everywhere at the same time. And there are certain places and people that will get it first, and their effect will be kind of clear and obvious. It's the idea like the government prints a bunch of money. Who does it give it to? Well, if you're a defense contractor, odds are you're going to be getting it. So prices of weapons maybe goes up a little bit. And then the benefits of people working for those companies get their money, so they look a little richer compared to everyone else. And then once they ultimately spend it, it starts flowing through the rest of the system. And then that money that was injected at one side really evens out and kind of levels off. Number 4, fiduciary media, aka credit. The idea of fiduciary media is a term that he kind of coined to describe the money that is created out of nowhere through fractional reserve banking. Fiduciary media is the stuff where it's like someone puts $100 in a bank. If you have a 10% reserve ratio, they can loan out 90. That person puts the 90 back in the bank. They can loan out 9 and then 8.1 and then like 7.2, that kind of stuff. Fiduciary media is his description of being like, this is how we explain how to calculate all the fake money that's being created by banking sectors. Number 4, we have time preference, or 5, excuse me. This is actually where he talks about interest rates. The way that von Mises looks at interest rates is he tries to look at present and future value, or present and future consumption, or savings. Savings versus consumption is one of the big things he talks about in the book, because he's saying if you're consuming something, it means you're not saving something. And if you're saving something, it means you're not consuming something. It's the trade-off game. So again, shout out to Thomas Sowell. There's only trade-offs in life. Von Mises would 100% completely agree with that statement. So because of this, he comes to the idea that interest rates really are an indicator of savings versus consumption. This is a bit of a novel take compared to our modern day understanding of interest rates, which is just the thing that the Fed says that it is. This is looking at an overall economy and being able to determine what the average or neutral or natural, as he calls it, natural interest rate would be based on the amount of money in the total system that is saved versus consumed. And then as a result of that, you can think long-term planning for like investing, building infrastructure, that kind of stuff, as opposed to consumer consumption, which if that goes up, it means that your investment goes down. Number 6, the Austrian business cycle theory. This is one of the big ones for this. So the basic idea with this one is that artificial credit expansion lowers interest rates below their market level, this encouraging investments that cannot be sustained because the real saving has not been increased. So if we go back to the previous notes about fiduciary media and time preference, he's saying that time preference or interest rates are savings versus consumption. It's a signal to the economy about what to do. Because you have banks that can introduce fiduciary media, aka lent money that expands the money supply, what it does is it creates a perverse signal that tells companies to invest and consumers to consume. So you kind of get this situation where both of these things are going up when, according to him, in the natural cycle, they would be in balance against each other. As a result, you're consuming more as a consumer and you're investing a lot as a company. Ultimately, the money is not going to come in to support the companies. They will collapse. When the companies collapse, your investments also collapse, and the overall velocity of money, aka like how freely people are willing to buy and spend stuff on a daily basis, that also drops, and the overall is a contraction for the economy. And then the final state of this is you enter a recession. The recession is the recovery period in the Austrian School of Economics. This is part of their business cycle, which is that recession is part of the business cycle. There will be good times, there will be bad times. That's pretty much the argument going on here. And finally, the last main idea is sound money. This is a concept that we are well familiar with talking about. And von Mises's argument is to say that, look, there's no such thing as the perfect money, according to him back in 1912. And there's only trade-offs. He really proposes the gold standard as a thing to fight against fiat expansion and inflation and just rampant spending on government behalf. Again, he would be bewildered by what we're doing today, but this is pretty much what he's talking about. He says that the monetary system tied to market constraints, historically commodity money such as gold, these market constraints better preserve purchasing power and limit discretionary expansion than politically managed fiat systems. So you're saying, look, people are fallible. Gold, it doesn't do anything unless you do something with the gold. But at the end of the day, that's you doing the thing with the gold. So again, it all comes back to the humans. And I think his argument is that the more you can extract the human element out of your money supply, the better off it's going to be, because there's just less people just getting in there trying to mess with it and just really alter it. Okay, that is pretty much what I got. As far as the notes go, I got a little summary that was kind of nice. He's saying the logical flow of this book kind of goes through these 6 steps. Number 1, money has to originate from somewhere or something people already value. This is where we get the regression theorem. This is where he kind of posits the idea that governments didn't create money, people created money, and then governments just tried to seize the authority on the money that did exist. Number 2, banks can create additional purchasing power through circulating credit. 3, that new purchasing power by the circulation of credit lowers interest rates without increasing real savings. Number 4, entrepreneurs interpret those interest rates that are now altered as evidence that more resources are available for long-term investment. Number 5, because those resources were never actually freed by increased saving, investment plans eventually conflict with ongoing consumer demand. And then number 6, the resulting correction is the boom-bust cycle described by the Austrian business cycle theory. There you go. That is the book. I saved you about 17 hours and 45 minutes. So you can thank me later.
Yeah. And that's all there is, guys.
Did I miss anything?
I wouldn't know if you did. Like it to me, honestly, this book read like a what was I telling you?
It reads like a math textbook.
It reads like a math textbook, both in that it reads you the numbers, and then it reads you like the question that has like Johnny has 5 apples and Susie has 10 apples. So with their combined powers, how many apples do they have? And then it talks about like how to add numbers together, and it's just like it. You had said earlier that Mises was he was a German, and he was also like a math connoisseur, like a math aficionado, and it's like, yeah,
it comes through.
It is a tedious book, and I only made it through on a technicality, and because I had a lot of driving to do. I started reading this book on my 10-hour drive south to it reads like a dictionary of numbers. Yeah, it really does. But like, it is what it is. So freaking ridiculous. So 5x speed. No, it was difficult to do on 2.15 speed. Like it started going through the data way too quickly for me on 2.15. Like I couldn't listen to it on 1 because I was like, bro, there's no fucking way I'm going to be listening to 24 hours of a book. So it's just like a math book definitely is a good way to describe it.
Was there anything in the book that was new information to you?
There's probably some tedious details that were new, but most of it was
as far as the overall concepts, we've talked about all this stuff before.
Yeah. Yep. The overall concept's pretty darn good. And it's kind of like, I didn't learn anything groundbreaking that I can think of. And also it just like this book zombified my brain. And so like catching up, there was nothing that I got excited about and nothing that I was like, ooh, I want to hear what's next. It was just like, kind of sort of mathematically talking about things I already have a pretty darn good understanding of. And yeah, it's definitely not a page turner. It's not like it's not going to get you gripping and riled up and wanting to consume more. This is definitely a very academic book. And it's
Yeah,
meant for an audience, or it's best read by an audience that's already just like,
deep in the
this is
weeds.
my jam, you know. So
Yeah, this is definitely a book where there is a specific target audience, and you will know that you're in that audience for sure. And if you don't, odds are it's not for you.
yeah,
At the same time, though, like just due to when this book was written and all the ideas that were coming out around this time, because around this time we had the Industrial Revolution going on, or this is post Industrial Revolution for both Britain and the United States and a good chunk of the rest of the world. So this is when we really saw specialization in the world come out heavily. So we could actually have people like these guys go real hard in economics, which
yeah,
it's a soft science. You can't really run experiments on an economy because you can't control for variables. You have to look at
yeah,
the whole thing in aggregate and try to like use deductive reasoning to say, if this, then that, we can examine that and say, okay, it appears to be the case here, here, and here. It appears to be a validation. There are some odd exception cases, but we should be able to explain those away. That kind of stuff. So again, like there's not really anything that we haven't talked about on this channel so far when it comes to the ideas inside this book. If you've taken like any sort of macroeconomics 101 class in like college or high school or anything, odds are we covered a lot of this stuff because those courses do typically cover Keynes and Hayek. And typically they teach Keynes first because Hayek is the criticism of Keynes, but it's both pretty much like two schools of thought trying to figure out what to do about this thing. One is definitely a bit more proactive or descriptive about what you should do, and then the other describes what does happen and how you're kind of screwing it up. So, look, we've been doing this whole macroeconomics thing for probably close to about, I'll call 125 years at this point, realistically. But outside of that, it's just difficult stuff. The one big way I would encourage people to look at the information from this book is to try to understand that this book's information is different because the author, von Mises, is actually trying to look at known macro or economic like principles through a different perspective. This kind of goes back to what I said earlier, which is that Keynes is a big macro guy, which is that he looks at everything from the 10,000 foot view and tries to describe what it's doing and then how you can tweak it. Hayek takes like the ground level view and says, I, as an individual, have these options in front of me. We can extrapolate from there to see the overall trends, but at the end of the day, it does come down to the individual. And it does he does do a lot of the other side of the coin, kind of like looking glass kind of stuff, because especially like it starts off with talking about subjective value. Like in today's day and age, if you ask someone what the value of something is, you could easily just like pull out your phone and look it up. But back in the day, if you asked someone what the value of something was, they might be able to tell you like a decent exchange rate or it's about roughly this. But the author actually takes it from a whole different stance and tries to go back even further than that and says, okay, how much do I value this thing? It's where he also kind of comes into the idea of like ranked value choice, pretty much saying that at any given point, if you had infinite money, you would buy certain things first and you would buy certain things last. As a result of that, those things you'd buy first probably have more value to you. And that's where you get some of the examples that we talked about. So
yeah, that's good.
Did you what'd you think about the subjective value idea? Does that make sense, or is that kind of just being a little too ethereal with it?
No, I think it's absolutely right, because I'm a big believer that everything is subjective and there is no like intrinsic value to a thing, because like if everyone is dead, then what does $1 million mean? What
Yeah,
does 400 chunks of gold mean?
it's like the classic thing of like you're stranded on a desert island. Would you rather have a pile of diamonds or a bottle of water?
Exactly. Yeah, the money means nothing when you can't transact it. You know, the gold might mean something because a person could use it, but it's the person applying the use to the thing that gives it the value. You know, animals value things because they want them and their genetics or whatever tells them to get it. We want things because like we both have like, we have an id, we have an ego, we have a super ego that tells us to do each thing separately. So like you can even break down value within like the different levels of like human consciousness, right? So like I have an id value, I have like a lizard brain value for breath and for water and for fucking and for violence when I need to, you know? And then I have an ego value for like, oh, I want to like gain attention. I want to gain reputation. I want to feel good. I want to do things in the world that I can think about. And then I have the super ego value, which is like, oh, morality and justice and Zion and like being like Zionistic towards like any sort of like code of ethics and stuff. So it's like I value this action because it makes society better. I value this other action because like it's part of my moral code and my ethics and things. So like you can even break down the value within the different like levels of the human consciousness. Have you ever seen like the consciousness iceberg where it's got the id is like above the water, it's got the it's got the ego above the water, it's got the id below the water, and it's got the super ego that like spans between the two. You ever see that?
I think I've
I
heard
don't
of
mean,
this
I don't mean to
idea.
get into consciousness talking here
Oh,
with
you're
like
good.
it's not Jung, it's oh shoot, who was it?
Freud?
Freud. Yeah.
It all
You got
comes
the
back to
conscious,
Freud.
preconscious, the unconscious, yeah. So you know, the ego is above the water. You can see it, you can think about it. The id is below the water. That's the really big one, and then the super ego kind of spans between the two. I've seen it broken down where it's like the iceberg is split in half. Like you know, there's a left and a right, and the super ego is all one side, and then the ego is the above water, and then the id is the below the water. You know, so yeah,
That
Freud.
one?
We got Matty Allen here. Oh, shout out to Matty Allen, by the way. Yeah, recognizing for us. Congrats on 100 episodes. Thank you,
Much
good
appreciated,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, Matty Allen. Yeah, Hexico's first. Yes, someone did say Freud. I misspoke and said Jung. But yeah, it's definitely Freud. Yeah, there we go. The id, the ego, the super ego. Yeah. And then there's the Titanic, appropriately enough, because this book that we're covering was written in 1912. But anyways, like to take it back to value, right? The value is all up in here. Without this thing, you know, without you and me and a bunch of animals and a bunch of squishy things that go around and make decisions, including AI now, then like there is no value. You know, there's this super funny show called Silicon Valley where a dude writes a script for an AI to like find to get the office a bunch of hamburgers, and it orders like 4,000 pounds of frozen meat at like super crazy discount from like a warehouse distributor. He's like, interesting, it's solved for the wrong like maximum efficiency. It chose the wrong like goal to shoot for, and it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, value is totally subjective, 100% subjective. And like when people try and assign value, when I say Zenith, this pen is worth $1 million and it won't trade for anything else, and I'm going to mail it to you, now you owe me $1 million. It's like, you don't give a fuck about this pen. It's not worth $1 million to you. The government can't come in and say pens are worth $1 million now, you must pay $1 million for pens. That just destroys the pen market. So like, you can't just assign value to things. Value has to be decided between the two parties, the buyer and the seller, and each one has a degree of degree of sovereignty and things. And yeah, absolutely, Matty Allen, Silicon Valley is a great show. I need to watch more of it because super fucking funny. So
Yeah.
anyways, Z, did I answer your question on like is value subjective?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I think you did a good job. I think it is, but I think that this is kind of a nuance that is definitely lost in today's day and age, especially inside of the crypto world that we operate in. Because at any given moment of any given day, I know exactly how much any given token is worth compared to the US dollar, whatever stick of measurement you want to have.
On the open market.
Yes, on the open market, exactly.
Mhm.
And then that also opens up
And
the
PC.
the yeah,
And then
the rabbit
and then
hole.
there's like, you know, black. It's like it's there's so many different levels. But I'm sorry, I shouldn't interrupt.
Yeah,
Continue,
no,
please.
you're good. I gotta say, like, if we tried to introduce Von Mises to the world of crypto trading, he would probably have an aneurysm. He'd be like, "You guys have bastardized my idea. Screw you."
You'd be like, how the fuck do you guys even like exist in here? What is
Yeah,
this?
and look, I don't blame him because I think one of the reasons why crypto is very scary to people, or they think it's just like a big old scam and a sham and just a way to steal your money, which in some ways it is through all like the hacking and the rug pulls and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's like you're trying to trade currency that goes up drastically at any given hour of any given day. And I think that the people that are in the game like us, they understand that what we're really doing is we're trying to give our opinion on what we think future value of an item that we can purchase at today's price is going to be. And as a result of that, it's kind of like the whole banking and credit thing, which is you're borrowing dollars to get today and you're paying it back in future money. But instead, it's like we are spending today's dollars on a thing that we believe will increase in value in the future and we'll be able to sell for a different unit of measurement, which will be able to be used to better our lives in some way, shape, or form. That kind of stuff. So like I think this is one of those things where you can definitely get hung up on it. You can think it's nonsense, but the idea of subjective value, it's something that I think is recognized in just day-to-day activity based on like what you want to order from a fast food menu, depending on what you feel like that day, versus trying to actually like quantify things and sell things. It's why you can get like crazy deals on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace and stuff, because the person that maybe is trying to sell that like old car, their value of it is very, very low because it's just like taking up space and they want to get rid of it. Versus to you, it's like you actually want the thing. So you value it closer to market rate versus they view it as like just trying to recoup a minimum cost and not have to pay someone to tow it. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's jump into another one here. The regression theorem. Do you think this matters? This is the idea of being able to explain why something has value. Basically saying the things have value not because of what they're valuable today, but because at some point somewhere someone thought it was valuable. Did the argument make sense? I'll start there.
Well, I mean that simplification makes sense because it's
Okay.
it's a very simplified. It's a simplified argument.
Does this argument matter?
Yeah.
Why?
Because if you can't so it matters to the person who assigns the price because that's why they assign the price. It's the underlying. If it is a thing that is the underlying reasoning for a person, making a choice. It's like, why do people in video games when you have a controller, right? Most people will, if you have to do a 180-degree turn, most people will favor doing a clockwise or a counterclockwise most of the time. If you have to turn 180 degrees, most people will turn counterclockwise. Most people will turn to the left because the joysticks, right? You take your thumb, it's easier to push the toggle button in than it is to pull the toggle button out. So most people, when they're doing like, oh shit, I got to turn all the way around, you take your thumb controllers and you go boink all the way in, right? It's most people do not take their controllers and do it all the way out. Also, like when you drive in like a left side driver's seat car, you prefer to take left-hand turns. When you drive in a right seated car, people will prefer to take right-handed turn because the driver is on the inside, like the inside radius of the turn.
Okay, I see what you're
like
saying. Yeah.
So there's reasons that people do things, and once you can, the regression theory just at its simplest core is like, hey, I choose this because that, like if you can understand the regression theory, then you can understand why people make decisions, which helps you understand the value that other people will assign to things, which will help you either like move in coordination with them and get goals accomplished in cooperation, or it will help you get your own goals accomplished at their detriment, but like being able to get to milk more value out of the process. Like if you're engaged in love versus if you're engaged in war. If you're engaged in like the love thing, then you can go with them and you can understand because it's essentially just know thy enemy or know the prospect, know the person that you're dealing with, right? Is the regression theory at its core, if I understand it correctly. Am I totally off here?
No, I think you're onto it because the question I asked you was, does being able to explain why the thing has value today based on the thing having value in the past matters?
Oh, well, yeah. So people are going to take their understanding of the past and they're going to apply it and presume it in the future. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, this dollar
So
is value, which is why, inflation sucks so bad, is because like we take last year's memories of gas prices and we apply it to right now. And right now's gas prices has nothing to do with what happened last year.
yes,
So
one of
it's like
the economic terms for that is
expectations.
sticky prices or price memory. Yeah.
Mhm.
This is where we've actually arrived at one of the first critiques of von Mises. And me personally, like Does being able to explain why things had value yesterday matter to today? From the like philosophical, trying to like be logical about it, does it matter? Yeah, sure, you're being correct about it. At the same time, though, I kind of think it doesn't matter that much because you
Really?
kind of got to operate on what's going on in the world. And the main criticism of this one is that this regression theory doesn't actually explain fiat currency. What you described actually does explain why fiat currency is able to work at all, basically, which is that there was a time we had gold, then we had banknotes, then we had the US dollar, which was redeemable for gold. And now we just have a non gold backed dollar. And the only reason that the dollar has really functioned as well as it has, or any fiat currency, is because at some point, like people had a relative idea of like what a dollar was worth in the gold and what that was comparable to everything else. But now we're way past the gold standard. So everything at this point kind of is just price memory or just
Yeah.
basic evaluation. And then the dollar is just kind of like a thing that we have value based on like what we thought it was like last month, last year, a decade ago, that kind of stuff.
We're literally just riding on coattails.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
I don't
all
know.
that it is.
Yeah, that's why I asked you, like, does this make sense? Yes, I think it makes sense. Me personally, I think like it's cool that he was a guy that was able to explain a phenomenon, but at the same time, it's like, we've departed from this. I don't know if it matters as much anymore.
I mean, that's not a terrible point. If it works, it works and it has value. If it doesn't work, then it doesn't have value. And I will say that like people holding the memory of the old value, like you talk to your grandpa and he's like, yeah, gasoline used to be a 25 cents. It's like, well, nice try, grandpa. You can't fool me. Like, it's not like that anymore.
True. Yeah. The way that the logical train on this one breaks down is that Mises's claim is that money must ultimately trace its value back to a commodity with non-monetary value. Gold worked because people wanted gold before it became money. The criticism is that modern currencies, like any fiat currency, such as the US dollar, are not redeemable for gold anymore, yet they still function. So, if Mises is right, why hasn't the dollar become worthless since leaving the gold standard? And the Austrian response is basically what you said. They argue that the theorem explains the origin of the money, not necessarily the continued operation of it. So,
Yeah.
the dollar retained purchasing power because it evolved from gold backed dollars, and people already roughly knew what that dollar could buy. So, because there's no great reset that occurred with it, there's still the price memory, which is the basis.
Yeah, there's got to be some sort of like momentum argument. I would suppose that like because if his point is after the thing stops being redeemable, then it shouldn't work. But it's like, oh well, like if you can convince a number of people to do things, then you can convince a number of people to do things, and then that becomes the reason, is the hypnosis more so than the actual like reality, which is probably the most important thing to think about. Is like it's more about what is the story that you can tell people, and how many people can you convince that there's this thing, and like when you do it nickels and dimes, when you do it just small little steps at a time, or like, oh, because the gold thing started in the 1930s, and then it didn't end like completely until the 1970s. So that's like a 40-year time span of slowly coming off of the gold standard. And it's just like, the analogy of the frog boiling in the pot comes to mind, even though that analogy sucks because a frog will totally jump out of boiling water. Right? But the idea that analogy passes is like, you slowly turn up the heat, you slowly take just a little bit at a time. People won't notice. When somebody comes in and they take all of your rights all at once, then you're like, hey, I don't like that. But when they just take like a little bit and then they give you a good explanation, and then take a little bit and they give you a good explanation, or and like whether the explanation is good or not, if you just accept it, then it's de facto good, whether it actually is a good explanation or a shitty story or something like that. So
Yeah, that makes sense.
it is
Alrighty,
both
let's
valuable and valueless. Oh, what's that? Have you seen
the paradox.
oh fuck, what was that movie with Orlando Bloom, where the Crusades, son of a bitch.
Is that is it a movie or a show? Is it the one
The
with like
Crusade.
the dude that wears the
Crusade
silver
movie.
mask?
Yeah, Liam Neeson, Edward Norton, man, I can't remember. But at the very end of the movie, when Orlando Bloom has done his job defending Jerusalem, and Saladin,
Kingdom of Heaven.
Kingdom of Heaven, yes. At the very end, after he says, after Orlando Bloom and Saladin are having their argument, or not their argument, but they're coming to their terms in their tent, because Orlando Bloom's like, I will burn this city to the ground and everything that's in it, all the holy things, both Christian and Muslim. And Saladin's like, I wonder if it would be better if you did. And then, Saladin says, tell you what, your people leave the city, all the women and children, everyone can leave and nobody dies. And you guys can take your arms and your weapons and march on out of here. And Orlando Bloom's like, cool beans, I got it. And then, yes, what is Jerusalem worth?
Nothing.
Nothing. Everything. Yes. So yeah. It is worth both nothing and it is worth everything. And the difference is, can you guess? Zenith?
I cannot, because I have not actually seen the movie. I just get fed the shorts.
No, not the movie. The difference between the two is this, right? God bless America. I'm supposed to have it on quick pull up on my phone. This is the difference right here.
The campfire story, of course.
Is the campfire fucking story. That's the difference between nothing and everything. Is what's in here, what's subjective, and that's why the subjective explanation is so powerful. So
there you go. All right, I dig it.
Yeah.
All right, on to another one. Let's talk about credit and
But I have a question for you at some point.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Kind of non sequitur, but because it just and so this is also for the folks at home too. If you guys read the book, if you didn't read the book, this question is for you guys as well. But the question is, like, if you could redesign money from scratch, what would it look like?
Oh God.
Yeah. Hey, with your magical wand, boop, you can make the thing that people get to choose to trade in, or they don't choose to trade in. Let's say you can add the clause of people are forced to use it or people are not forced to use it, right? You can anywhere on that spectrum, right? So if you could recreate money, if you could do the best job of creating the currency by which people exchange goods and services, do you have a way? And you don't have to answer it right now. We could think on it and we can get back to the stuff, but it's something for the folks at home to consider, because like we have Bitcoin, we have gold, we have dollary doonies. The Pomo tribe, Native Americans used clamshells. Didn't work so well for them. There's this really good webcomic called Crossed, where it's like post-apocalyptic, crazy people get infected by a plague that turns them crazy and makes them want to like basically kill and rape everything. And like the lone survivor pockets, some of them like have like just a bunch of girls, and one of the girls just decides like, I'm going to be the local currency, and I have 40 marbles, and every week I'm gonna hand out one marble to each of the guys, and that marble is redeemable for one sexy time, and I am the new currency. So like there's tons of currency options that exist within the world. Right, you have the marbles, you have the brothel tokens, you have the dollary doonies, you have Bitcoin, you have clamshells, you have debt. Right, if you could redesign money, how do you think you would make it?
Clearly, we just got to start operating with the gold coins from the high table.
The gold coins from the high table. What's the high table?
It's the John Wick reference.
Oh man, I need to rewatch that series because it's been a hot minute. I was just watching. Man, I don't know if we have the same YouTube algorithm, because I started getting fed more John Wick shorts recently.
There's a good chance that we do.
Yeah.
All right, for a serious answer, hear me out. I'm going to try to extrapolate and think a little bit about this outside of the normal answer, which is just like, I don't know, probably Bitcoin, but with big blocks instead of the small blocks. Hear me out.
Thank you. What was that? Was that dude that wrote blocking Bitcoin or whatever?
Hijacking Roger Ver.
Roger Ver. That's right.
Yeah. All right, hear me out. We're covering the von Mises book. Von Mises argues a gold-backed currency is probably better because you can't produce gold. There's a finite supply on the earth. You can mine more, but there's a finite supply. And because it's redeemable that way. And he argues gold because gold, according to the regression theorem, had value at some point. I'm going to put some modern spin on it. What if we had silicon-backed dollars?
Silicon?
Yes.
That's interesting.
the primary component of semiconductors, aka currently one of the most valuable and useful things on the face of the planet.
Okay. Is it? It's manufacturable, right?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
is
yeah.
it only like mineable?
It's mineable. It's both.
Okay.
I'm just saying, silicon is one of the critical components in processing components. Processing components are kind of one of the big bottlenecks of the day. Arguably one of the most valuable things you can produce either, according to the Nvidia stock, which is like multi-trillion dollar market cap at this point.
Yeah.
So hear me out. If gold was valuable in the past, why not put a little spin on it and see what's valuable today? Granted, it could change in the future, but hear me out. At the same time, do we see a world where we will not be using computing at any point in the future?
I certainly don't.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
That's a that's a good that's not a bad one. Well, it's not that it's it certainly makes me think. I would have never guessed silicon. Um, but is that based on utility? Is it based on scarcity? Like
Both.
what I'm saying is silicon infinite? Much like wood could be infinite, or well, water can't be infinite, but it can either be created or destroyed. Um, but like there's silicon that exists, right? There's sand on beaches. If we're using silicon as currency, do we leave these sandy beaches all covered in all this beautiful silicon, or do we go and
Maybe.
close down all the beaches and just have concrete beaches? Is that a thing? Is sand made of silicon?
Pretty sure it is.
Uh-oh. Zenith's Zenith's currency makes beaches a new a new scarcity thing.
Yeah, it really puts a new twist on the waterfront property prices as well.
Yeah, I suppose so. It's like I'm literally sitting on a pile of money. All the silicon, all the beaches, just like everyone scoops off all the sand, and now it's just like stone beaches everywhere.
Silicon makes up about 27 to 28% of the Earth's crust by mass, making it the second most abundant element after oxygen. It is found
Oh,
primarily as silicon dioxide, quartz, or sand, and in silicate minerals. Although refining silicon into high purity form does require energy, the raw material is so abundant that we are nowhere near exhausting it.
okay.
Unlike gold, where economically recoverable deposits are relatively scarce, silicon resources are effectively measurable in geological rather than human timescales.
Okay.
In principle, this could work, but the AI is telling me the supply would be way too elastic. Okay,
Way too
all right, maybe
elastic,
that was a
okay.
terrible answer.
Well, no, I like where your head was, because your head was in the utility, and it was computing based.
Yeah,
Computing based utility, right?
use case.
And gold used to be computing based utility, in addition to jewelry, in addition to shiny, and heavy and hard to get. So like it's got to check like a whole bunch of wickets, I suppose.
Ah,
Yeah.
all right, that was a swing and a miss. My bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, yeah, shame on you. You're getting a fucking Zenith spanking for choosing a bad currency. There's like, this is literally why we're here, bro. Is to fucking swing and
This is
miss.
a tough question, dude.
If I would have said like wooden nickels, it would be an equally bad response.
You just start growing wooden nickels on trees, boy.
Yeah, it's like, what could be used? I mean, like I hate just saying Bitcoin, because it really is the easy answer, but it's like a pretty damn good answer.
As
Bitcoin
of the
with bigger
current
blocks.
date, I think that outside of the whole bigger block thing, Bitcoin
Nice.
really did solve one of the issues. Granted, it was kind of like an arbitrarily set limit that there's only going to be so many Bitcoins, with the
Yeah.
idea that you have a finite supply that cannot be altered,
Mhm.
and you know exactly how much there's going to be at any given point. I think that does solve one of the biggest issues with any currency that is available, is because like if it's silicon, it's way too elastic. You can just go mine out the beach and try to figure it out that way. If it's gold, you might run into the issue the Roman Empire had, where you start shaving the edges off and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I guess maybe the biggest downside to Bitcoin is that it requires energy to keep the network alive. So theoretically, there is a vulnerability, but we're talking like world-ending vulnerability at that point. So I think the money supply becomes the least important question. But I don't know. Maybe just gold is the answer. Who knows? Shout out to Peter Thiel. He had it all along.
Yeah, he had Peter Thiel's got it. Who's that pirate money guy?
Oh crap.
I remember that was one of our book clubs, the pirate money dude. He's like, oh yeah, certificates that are backed by gold and things. But yeah, I think that would. Yeah,
Evan
we
Freeman.
built rational optics, similar to gold-backed dollar, platinum notes, silver penny, etc. So I guess the penny was originally backed by silver, and platinum could be a new thing. So it's not a bad choice. It would look like time limited. Everyone can decide how to spend it as they see fit. Oh yeah, that's a good movie with JT, Justin Timberlake, and some other folks as well. Olivia Wilde. Oh man, who else is in Time? Man, that's a good movie.
The movie is literally just called In Time.
Yeah. Have you not seen it?
I've seen clips of it, but I've never seen the whole thing.
It's pretty good. It's a good flick. It was back when movies had like novel ideas. Now, like the fucking you turned your hand over and now you're taking the time instead of giving the time, and it's like, what?
Sure.
I don't fucking know. But it was a great concept. It was really cool, really interesting. Good like gambling stuff. Just fun Justin Timberlake movie. Good early 2000s flick. Interesting story. Much better than many other movies and things. But anyways, that was my non sequitur. What kind of questions you got?
So there was one slightly new concept in the book that I wanted to discuss with you.
Okay.
We talk about inflation a lot. What about deflation? So one of the things that Mises posits in the book is that productivity-driven deflation is a good thing. This is talking about as time goes on, technology improves, we learn more, we get better at doing stuff, so the prices of things do go down, theoretically. I mean, we can see this in everyday stuff. Like the price of electronics has dropped significantly from like a decade or even 2 decades ago.
TVs, yeah.
Yes, but a shrinking economy or a deflation in prices in some areas seems to be one of the most catastrophic things possible, aka the housing sector. So, back in 2008, people were underwater in their mortgages because the housing value dropped below the amount that they owed on their loan. That was a bad thing. But, I don't know, buying cheaper electronics, that seems like a good thing. So, in an economy where deflation is actually like a normal thing that happens, do you think that that's feasible, or is that just like too catastrophic to think about for the general public to be allowable?
Can you sort of kind of repeat the whole thing over again?
Do you think having like deflation as just like the normal part of economic movements, do you think that that's like, do you think it's something that's feasible for us, or is that just an idea that's like too crazy, especially when it comes to like investment and like the value of your house and stuff like that?
Having deflation is fine. I think it just can't be ran roughshod, and the government can't be in charge of it.
Oh, that sounds like a very fun Mises answer as well, by the way, saying the government can't be in charge of it.
Yeah, like when the government's in charge of it, guess what? The government is always going to make the best decision that's in your interest, not their own. So you don't need to worry about trusting them because they got you, bro. They got you. Your inflation is safe in their hands. And like whether you want to call it like the government, meaning like the United States or the country of Turkey or Russia or the European Union, or you want to call the government the Iron Bank, from Westeros, meaning the International Monetary Fund, or the International Banking Cartel, right? The people that actually run the show, that are not the U.S. government. What is it called? Is it the IMF, International Monetary Fund? It's the whatever the fuck they are. Whatever the real world version of the Iron Bank is from Game of Thrones, right? That's the actual government. Like some group of people, rubbing their hands together, having long crooked noses and wearing small hats and getting you with the usury and stuff. Like there's somebody somewhere that is in charge of the way that monetary policy works and is set, and they're the ones that get all the goodies. The United States government debt borrowing works because the United States borrows against the value of the land, and the value of a human being when they're born, you are assigned a social security number. If your parents register you, and you're given a social security number, and that social security number is tied to your ability to engage in credit and debit and borrow money, and also it's tied to your the fact that, like, wherever you go, wherever you work in the United States, you are required to pay taxes. And so basically your social security account, your birth certificate, enslaves you for life to pay taxes to this government system, against which all of the value that the government borrows is basically just like, hey, somebody out there is going to go, like, move a rock 10 feet, and that's going to generate value. And then because they generated value, they're going to get paid. And because they get paid, they're going to pay you. So, like, you print the money now, they pay you later. You print the money now, they pay you later. Like, when the entire S&P 500 every single year increases the value of the companies by 8%, right? All of those people, all of those 500 companies, and every single employee that's out there, like, making sandwiches and building race cars and, sending rockets to the moon and doing graphics card, whatever the hell, all of those people that are doing all those improvements, all of that value is captured when the money printer prints another 8% of circulation into supply. So, like, the money printer is fueled by the economic power of the people creating value and paying tax on that value, and then also the land that backs it. And that's what, like, the US debt is backed by. So
Let me see if I understand your argument.
Mhm.
So you're saying that the value that a nation creates is created by the citizenry, the total assets, work, and whatever they have.
Mhm.
And as a result, based on kind of like current conventions, everyone expects it to grow at a certain rate. As a result of that, I think that you would argue that deflation is not something that is allowable, or even if it did come out, it would be like a big death marker about like things are not going well.
I was just trying to describe the way that the United States works. I'm not saying
Okay.
I'm sure that deflation is fine, or excuse me, inflation is fine. I think I misunderstood the question. I think I heard inflation when you might have said deflation.
I said deflation. I know it's
Ah,
a hard switch up
fiddlesticks.
because we talk about this so much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Deflation,
yeah.
baby. Yeah, yeah.
Man, that's a hard one. I'm sure that deflation could be fine, but I've never experienced deflation. People tell me that it's worse than inflation, but, like, I don't see how that could. Like, I'm having a tough time wrapping my mind around that. What do you think? I want your thoughts because you probably understand this better than me. Because I was told I was going the wrong direction.
This is one that I actually don't have an answer for, but when I was reading the book, this is one that got my mind going down a rabbit hole. Because I kind of view this as a paradox, which is that in certain aspects of the economy, things are expected to be deflationary. But in other aspects of the economy, things are expected to never be deflationary. And if they are, it's catastrophic. Reference like stock market,
Yeah.
house prices, that kind of stuff.
Well, TVs
I
are
think,
deflationary.
yeah, like, so exactly. We talked about this. Like, the concept of inflation, we focus on so much. And I feel like it's only ever really kind of talked about in passing about like, oh yeah, deflation's bad, but we kind of solved that, so don't worry about it. It's like, no. I understand that, like, on aggregate, everyone expects the line to just keep going up forever when it comes to like total GDP and stuff like that. And it's like, I understand that, like, theoretically, we're producing more people, we're constantly learning, we're constantly improving. Therefore, yeah, line should go up. But when we're looking at economics, cycles are very much a thing of a lot of different sectors that we talk about, whether it's like me looking at the Bitcoin price and the 60-day cycles that go on there, or just the overall business cycle for an overall economy. It's like there are up and down periods. And I think maybe the answer to it might be that it's just like the emotionality behind it and just the human psychology of not wanting to experience pain. And that when we see line on the chart go down, especially the stock market and house prices, people understand that there is inherently pain there, and it realizes itself in reality by like companies going under, people losing their job,
Mhm.
uh, your house being worth less than the amount you owe on it. I think is a little. That one's kind of like talking about like realizing losses as opposed to just like seeing the number lower on the sheet, that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. So for me, the question of deflation is like, it kind of raised the question for me, like, yeah, why doesn't this happen? Why don't we just like let nature take its course? Because the Austrian school of economics has always been very appealing to me, partly just
Mhm.
because of my political bent, but also at the same time,
It's very laissez-faire, right?
It's pretty laissez-faire, but they do very much acknowledge that you can have distortions and perversions of it entirely. This is why the Austrian School of Economics is actually would argue for monopolistic protections to a degree and like trust busting and stuff to a very limited degree, because what you get out of that is that you get capture of a market which is no longer a free market. It's really just kind of being shoehorned into something by people that manage to get control of it. So when it comes to deflation, I think that I look at it as humans, especially in today's day and age, have tied up our expectations and things to a point where we've tried to deny this thing that realistically is just part of everyday cycles, which is that we are always trying to constantly improve, and you're always trying to save and grow your wealth so that whether you want to pass it off to your kids or at least just have like something to retire on, you want that to always be there. I understand, like, I think there's just like a biological instinctive drive that is tied to emotion and surviving that is there. But when you take the emotionality out of it, deflation appears to be something that happens and honestly should be expected to a degree. Because if you have just constant inflation, you deal with stuff like we've been dealing with for the last like forever since the Federal Reserve came into existence. But realistically, I can just point to the last 10 years. Like real inflation over the last 10 years, based on some of the stuff I've looked at, is anywhere between like 56% and like 116% based on how you measure it, based on the goods you measure. So if you don't want that kind of inflation, it means that you probably have to open yourself up to the concept of deflation as something that's going to happen and you have to be ready for and prepared for. And I just don't think that the general zeitgeist has that anywhere near the realm of possibility or anywhere near like acceptable ideology in the Overton window.
Yeah, and I don't know how many, like, what percentage of people in existence, at least in the West in America, have ever like experienced deflation truly, you know?
Yeah. One of the famous cases of deflation was Japan in the between 1990 and 2000. That was a time when they actually had deflation going on. It was a bit of a crisis, but people also argued that it actually was a result of the strength of their economy leading up to that. And then it ultimately strengthened the economy to a degree as a result of it as well. But I think that like we talked about at the beginning, this is not a perfect science. You can't just articulate, it was this one thing. It's like, no, in reality, it's a million different things working together. You're just trying to figure out which ones are dominant. So it's anybody's best guess, honestly, or at least trying to get close to what we think is the truth.
I mean, I certainly have no idea. Like, I would be, I would be like clinically curious to see what happens in deflation. I wonder what kind of effect that would have on me. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think you would do in deflation? Like, because it's just basically like your dollar goes farther, right?
Yeah, its prices are falling in general. As
Yeah.
one thing that is also a price is technically your wage. So
Sure.
imagine that instead of just getting like an annual 3% increase, if the total economy is going down and things are costing less overall, like it is a rational thing to expect like maybe you would actually get paid less by the company just because the company's making less money, things are worth less. You would be able to survive on it. But I think there's just like this human instinct of like number go down bad that would just fight against it so hard.
I wonder what like which would go first, the wages or the price of the thing that you want to get.
Traditionally, we usually see prices first, wages second in the inflationary cycle.
Yeah. So there will be a nice little fluffy zone where you can be like, yeah, I can buy everything shortly before you lose your job.
Yeah. Arceus actually has a really good comment here. Deflation is too many goods or not enough money circulating to buy goods. As a result, prices drop. Yes, that is one of the explanations of it. Let's see. Businesses have too much inventory. They lower prices and lay off workers. Unemployed people can't buy stuff, so companies lower prices further, and then you end up in recession or depression. Okay. Yeah. All right.
That makes sense.
All right. I get that.
All right. I feel like we've been in a fucking recession, with my ability to buy things.
The vibes recession. The vibe recession is real.
And I'm like, I'm obviously being a little bit bombastic here
I want to
because
say
the
that
fuck
was
do I know?
like a topic that I was seeing like probably like 2 or 3 years ago on YouTube for like all the economic channels. It was like, we're
Yeah,
not in a recession, we're in a vibes recession. Just feels bad
yeah,
because number go up, but you feel worse, and it's like,
yeah.
you can exploit it. It's actually
Yep.
kind of recession, but I don't know. It's neither here nor there.
Live comfortably, everybody. Put on those on your nice plush bathrobe made out of plastic. Coat yourselves in polyester.
True. Alrighty, let's talk about something else that we are pretty familiar with. So Von Mises describes credit as two different ways. Number one is commodity credit, the other is circulation credit.
Mhm.
Commodity credit is the idea that everyone saves first. So theoretically, you earn $100,000, you spend only 80K, you save the remaining 20,000 and you lend it out. Nothing new was ever created, resources were simply transferred, and you postponed your consumption. This is his wording. Someone else uses the resources you gave them, and this type of credit coordinates production. Circulation credit, suppose no one saves, and instead the bank loans out money and just creates $20,000. Now you still spend your income. The borrower also spends the newly created money, and the total purchasing power increases, but the real resources do not. Now, both parties compete for the same workers, machines, and materials. Prices begin to change unevenly. So, this is kind of like Austrian business cycle theory. Banks expand credit circulation, interest rates fall, businesses overinvest, resources become scarce, businesses become unprofitable, and then recession hits. So, the question for this one is I have it written down somewhere. Number one, is the idea that banks creating money is the issue, or is the issue the underlying thing that people are doing with the money in this form of the circulation credit that Von Mises describes?
I'm just, blanket statement, gonna blame the banks. Uh, what do you think?
I think it's both. I think that this is kind of one of the areas where Keynesian economics could theoretically be correct, but in reality, it just doesn't usually work out that way. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, which is that we get an expansion of credit, things heat up, we get real inflation in the economy. And then as a result of the inflation, people feel the pain and then pull back. And then we actually feel the effects of the original money creation at the beginning, which is that we made more money. We didn't make as much stuff as we made money. So at the end of the day, we ran super hot there for a little bit, but now we kind of have that hangover for it.
Mhm.
Von Mises talks about he coordinates a couple things in the scenario that he highlights in the book, which is that number one, you have saving versus consumption. That is a binary choice that is being shown here. In reality, it is truly a binary choice. You're either investing or you're spending, pretty much. Number two is interest rates. The way that Von Mises describes interest rates in the book is more of a signal or a thing that occurs inside of a free market where people will naturally come to this as a result of what is available, as opposed to what we have today, which is just the Federal Reserve trying to do their best guess at that. Von Mises is arguing for a much more abstract concept, which is like you have banks that are free to set the interest rate. People are naturally going to go to where they're treated the best. Banks that get too aggressive with it go out of business. There's some pain. And the ones that have it closer to the correct target end up surviving because they have the most customers and they're sustainable. The ones that have it too high have fewer customers, maybe even go out of business, but they just make less money as a result. And then the other part of this is his concept of like money creation, which is that money is created through the expansion of currency here. So we can start at the top here. Does his description of consumption versus spending make sense? As like you're either doing one or the other?
Yeah, and like the consumption could turn into generation, but that's like a couple steps down the road, sort of thing, And I would
Makes
agree with
sense.
that. You're either using the fuel or you're saving the fuel.
Okay. What about his interpretation of an interest rate? Obviously, in reality, our interest rate is different from his version.
Hmm.
But do you think that his description of an interest rate that is something that's kind of like discovered by the market about what is the best interest rate? Does that make sense? Do you think that's feasible?
I don't know if it's feasible, but I would say it's certainly better than what we have. From my just like you know,
Our
uh,
distrust of the Federal Reserve? Yes, I'm
there's
right there with you
somebody
on
out
that.
there with a magic wand that says this is what it is, and then the free market just kind of does its thing, and then pitters and patters and bounces all around, as opposed to the free market just deciding it for itself and rewarding by survival those that choose close enough, and punishing those who deviate by they go out of business or whatever.
I
That's
think
what I think.
that
What do you think?
I think it's possible. I
Uh-huh.
think that you would have a lot more options for banking if that was the case. And if
Uh-huh.
it was the case, the landscape would look very different from what we see today. On DGen Roundtable for the Sunday show, we've covered over the last couple of years a handful of banks that like went under. I'm talking about Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank. Those two news stories really did kind of mark the end of small to medium sized banks, and the economy that we exist in right now is pretty much full of large scale banks. If you have a local credit union or something like that, that's pretty much what we're talking about in this hypothetical scenario. Imagine
Mhm.
if you had credit unions all over the place instead of just like maybe like 5 or 6 large banks that operated nationwide.
Did you know that anybody can form a credit union? You need seven real live human people pe- 7 real live human beings, and you have to be serving like some sort of community, and you can form your own credit union.
That makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's very
It is.
interesting.
I bet trying to learn how to operate one of those is probably very difficult because you're trying to pay for a brick and mortar business based off of gathering interest rates from the savings, but also at the same time trying to offer financial services to people. Gosh, it sounds like a difficult task, but yeah, you
Maybe.
theoretically could do it. And in the hypothetical situation here, I think that yeah, it would work, but I think it's not some like magical candy land where everything works perfectly and everyone has discovered the same interest rate. I think that naturally you would get some competition. There would be some failures. There would be people that lose money through the bank, and that would cause outcry. So I think the analysis at the end of this one is that it's trade offs, which is we've entered into a system where loss of individuals at the bank up to the amount of $250,000 protected by the FDIC is not allowable. And that is the guardrail that we have chosen for this system. I think that going to the hypothetical scenario would achieve the best interest rate available to the market, but there would also be pain caused with it. And I think that in aggregate over the course of the last couple hundred years, ever since 1928 when the FDIC was created, I think that we've definitely valued security of individual depositors over this hypothetical interest rate. So it's possible, but I think that what I'm saying is that assuming that everything going on today was made on free will and good decision making, this is preferable to human nature. But obviously, that is not the case. But yeah, gosh. I don't know. This one kind of got me going. Like I think this is kind of like the what if land of
Hmm.
like when we talk about economics, especially like the debate between Keynesian and Austrian School of Economics. It's all theoretical.
Yeah.
Keynesian is the one that has come closest to being seen put into place in real life over the
Oh,
last course of the 100 years. I don't think it's done as the book describes by any stretch of the imagination, because we don't reduce government spending in eras of profitability. Because that would be me spending less money. That's a bad thing. We can't have
what would?
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Like we give a whole bunch of people a bunch of power, and then they turn that power down when they don't need it. Like the superheroes, they don't go around, like breaking cars and knocking over windows when there's no bad guys. It's like, nah, bro, the government is gonna fucking do the things at all times. There ain't no down volume option. That knob cranks in one direction.
Yeah, that would require a great man. And according by my scoreboard, I say that there have only ever really been two and a half great men.
Yeah.
Number one was Emperor Cincinnatus of the Roman Empire, who was given ultimate authority to be emperor for life, turned it down after saving the country, and went back to his farm. Number two was George Washington. People wanted him to be king for life at the head of the United States, which at the time they didn't know it would grow into the superpower that it is today. Again, unknowingly, he was offered ultimate power, turned it down, set term limits for the presidency. And then the half man is the Medici family back in the 1400s in Italy. They acted like they were these people, but behind the scenes, they were actually kind of cutthroats and didn't exactly operate that way. But the legacy that they tried to prescribe themselves said that they were.
I thought you were gonna pull out like the whole Charlie Sheen, John Cryer, and Angus T. Jones off of this 2.5 Great Men.
No. It's a reference for it, but no,
Yep.
I'm talking about historical figures instead of Charlie Sheen and the joke of let me pull up my little black book for dates, and he has a textbook effectively. No,
I do like the Thomas Jefferson and Andrew Jackson having the best tanks on central banks, and if you pay attention to that second one, what happened to him? A couple fucking assassination attempts. Was Thomas Jefferson assassinated as well? Can't remember.
No,
Andrew Jackson
Jackson
survived.
famously, people attempted to assassinate
Yeah.
Jackson,
Yeah.
and in one case, he got shot in the chest and then beat the guy with his cane who tried to assassinate him. But yeah, Jefferson and Andrew Jackson. Jackson was the one where some of his last dying words were, "Remember, I was the one that killed the bank," because
Mhm.
he was very much against the central bank. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Most of
that's
the
a good
presidents
trip.
that were assassinated had issues with central banking.
Yeah.
JFK, Ronald Reagan wasn't actually assassinated, but I don't remember. I think that Reagan kind of sort of played a small part in the ruining of the economies. But yeah, most of the presidents that got assassinated, they were doing some screwing around with central banking. There is a pattern in there.
Yeah.
I
Fun.
think, anyways.
Neither of those gentlemen were killed.
Hell yeah!
A
Fucking
little bit of a fun
badass.
fact. Andrew Jackson, in my opinion, is actually a very interesting historical figure and president
Oh
to
yeah,
look back upon. I
fun
think
guy.
because he was one of the people that really did try to fight against the central bank idea in the United States, that's a huge merit for him.
Mhm.
At the same time, he was also one of the people that expanded the power of the presidency by a massive amount. And in the age of his day, people viewed him somewhat as a bit of a tyrannical president, actually, because of the way that he did things. He
Oh yeah.
is one of those figures that did get things done at the
Mhm.
cost of kind of going over some guardrails or some social mores, if you will.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the presidents, I find him a particularly interesting one because he's kind of one of those case examples of like, I know it needs to be done, but it's technically against like your moral code or something based on
Jack
the
Bauer
society.
from 24.
Yeah, pretty much exactly like that. He is the Jack Bauer of presidents. So
The what, the anti-hero or something. The chaotic good or whatever.
yeah, like kind of like the Punisher or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun fact there for you. Alrighty.
Andrew Garfield as well. Yep, also assassinated.
Yeah. All right. Tell you what, we gotta finish up the banking.
Yes, we do.
conversation here.
Sorry.
So the final point we talked about interest rates. We talked about savings versus consumption. The final little prong in this scenario was: do banks actually print money, or is the thing that they're doing kind of logical? Which is that you are technically expanding the money supply through the actions of lending, but at the same time you're actually providing a good for the economy, and you're allowing more people to have access to more money, which they can then use to either benefit or detriment themselves and the community.
The banks don't actually print the money.
Correct. They don't print money, but they like virtually create it, kind of.
Yeah.
Which is like, instead of one guy having access to $100, you kind of now have like 10 people that collectively have access to like $1,000.
Hmm. When you go to like buy a house, the bank opens up an account that the bank owns, and then they use that account for you to fund your own promissory note that pays for the house, and then you, the borrower, pay off your own note, but it's held by the bank, and then the bank sells the rights to that note to multiple other places. So it's like it's a very it's a very interesting process. There was a really great court case that happened in the 1960s where basically a judge got killed, a prosecutor or not the prosecutor, a lawyer got killed, and a defendant all got killed very, very like within quick succession of each other, because a dude basically sued a bank over like the fact that he funded his own promissory note, and therefore like he didn't need to pay the bank back. And the judge ruled in his favor, and then the judge like shortly thereafter was poisoned. The dude died in some other mysterious way, and then the lawyer that represented him also like got killed. It was in like the 1960s. I can find it at some point, but I was listening to that not terribly long ago.
Interesting.
Fucking nuts. Let me find that, because I don't want to just be talking out of my ass here. But
Yeah.
I'm derailing us. Bring us back, Z. Bring us back.
The crux of the question that I'm asking is the fractional reserve banking worth its trouble? Because there are good things that come out of it, which is that you can have an expanded economy. You can even have things like home loans be available to people in the first place, as opposed to just having to save up their whole life to buy the thing. But at the same time, we also do get runs on the bank, failures, inflation, that kind of stuff. So, like the von Mises criticism of this is that you're basically printing money, and printing money is bad because you're creating something that is not backed by anything. But at the same time, the ability to expand credit has allowed the size and scale of the modern economy to exist that otherwise would not be possible. So, I don't know, where do you kind of fall on it? I imagine you kind of fall against it, but
I'm sorry. I had found the case and I was reading it. Can you please say again? It was Jerome
fractional reserve.
Daly v. First National Bank of Montgomery.
There you go.
1960.
Is fractional reserve banking worth all of the bad things that comes with it?
I mean, it's all that I know. So, like, I can't really opine well because it's the only thing that I would say no, but I'm also using it. So
There you
I
go.
recognize there's a bit of a hypocrisy there.
I don't think it's a hypocrisy. I just think it's a tough question that we just might not have
Certainly
the
tough.
answer to. I'll give you this
What
one.
do you
So
think?
this is ugh.
I would say
I think
ethically bad. It's functional, and it hasn't collapsed yet. Like, I don't like it. I don't like that it takes my power away from me nickel and dime like, but here I am still using it, and like it's lasted, you know.
I think that it logically makes sense. And that if you allowed the natural course of things to run its course, and failures could happen and people could miss out, I think that it would be totally fine if it was allowed to run the natural course. I think that because it's not, and especially because we get these really perverse things like reducing minimum reserve requirements to zero, effectively sending it completely off the rails, that is where you get the worst the worst version of it, and you kind of get it. I understand that it's allowed the economy to expand, and I think that if done properly, it could be beneficial. But I think that personally, because we just put so many guardrails on it and protections against people, and ultimately those protections are the things that are robbing them at the end of the day, because it's just the government backing the banks, and the government is funded by the people that also have their money in the banks. It feels like you're getting your money back, but you're just paying for it in different ways and in less efficient ways too, by having to go through all the intermediaries, like the people that collect taxes, the people that make the laws, the people that pay out the payouts to the bank, and all that kind of stuff. That's my answer. This is one of the other big critiques of von Mises, is that people claim that von Mises is saying that banking just creates money, but the argument is that it's not actually creating money. Von Mises often describes banks as expanding fiduciary media, if you remember that term from the beginning. So today, banks face capital requirements, reserve ratios, liquidity regulations, stress testing, market discipline. Modern economists argue that lending is constrained by profitability, regulation, and creditworthiness, not merely by a willingness to create deposits. The Austrian response to this is that yes, those constraints do exist, but banks still create money, deposit money through lending. The mechanism still remains. So to me, I don't even know if there is. This is one of the ones that I'm pretty split the most on, which is that, again, in the perfect system, we would actually have repercussions for bad actions. But because we don't have these repercussions, I think that there's a buffer against it, and people kind of get robbed on their own by their own money. And I think that it does create these things that it creates money out of thin air, kind of. But at the same time, there are definite benefits to it if handled properly. And I just don't think we're handling it properly.
Yeah, I could certainly agree to that. It is not
There
being
you go.
handled properly.
Okay. Alrighty. Last one. Von Mises's favorite thing to back money with. Gold. This is where he talks about. He favors commodity money, aka money based on a commodity, in this case, gold. Critics often point out that the gold supply depends on mining companies, technological improvements, and geography, and the gold standard can also produce inflation, deflation, banking crises, and financial panics. The late 1800s, we talked about several of these examples in previous book clubs as well. And the only answer that the Austrian School of Economics gives on this one is that yes, those things exist. No system is perfect. Gold simply imposes the strongest limits on discretionary money expansion rather than fiat currency. Is that a satisfying answer to you about why gold standard or no gold standard? Of being like, yep, stuff sucks, pick one.
I mean, like it really just kind of cuts through all the everything, It's like
Yeah, it does.
it's not fluffy. It doesn't feel good, but it's like, you know, uh let's just get down to the brass tacks here. This shit is, I don't know. It's amusing.
Yeah, it's definitely tongue in cheek a little bit, I would argue.
Yeah.
But I almost think that the question is unfathomable because we exist today. We have
Mhm.
computers, we have access to banking, we have home loans, we have all kinds of stuff in a massive economic ecosystem.
Yeah.
If we did not have all the things that we had up until this point, I don't know if technology would have progressed to this point nearly as quickly. And I think that a lot of the things that we have today, we value very highly. I mean, shoot, we started the show talking about the different AI stuff we were doing with,
Mhm.
and I bet you we would probably be a lot further off from AI if we did not have the expansion of the money supply through the systems that we made.
Yeah.
I think that
I can agree with
if you're
that.
if you're trying to be principled about it, I think gold is better than fiat just on the face. There will be more pain and there would be more suffering in the world, but at the same time, I think there's a lot less moral hazard with gold-backed currency than the current system that we have. Because at the end of the day, inflation really is just kind of robbing you of things that you have already and just slowly stealing bits and pieces of it, or at least the value of it. If you have a gold-backed currency, I don't think it does that. But again, if we're talking about reality, someone somewhere would create the fiat currency. They would be the ones to go do the thing. Therefore, why not be the people to do the thing first and better? And then kind of deal with the repercussions later or try to ship it elsewhere in the world.
Yeah.
So
It's
for me, this one comes down to like practicality versus morality almost.
yeah. The age-old question. We never we what is the phrase? We were so busy trying to ask ourselves if we could do it that we never stopped to ask if we should. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, you know, the other point you bring up is like, if we don't do it, someone else is gonna. So best to build that atom bomb first or something, and then worry about the morals and ethics later, I guess. Are we
Uh,
fucked? Are we boned, bro? Are we are we cooked?
the answer is definitely slightly.
To be
To what
determined.
degree, we don't know.
Yeah.
I I mean, this is kind of like the classic thing that we've seen as we've been running the show, gosh, like uh
Over
3
3 years now.
years at this point. Yeah.
Yep.
And even we've been paying attention to news stories long before we were streaming, but it always feels like things are pointing to like, oh, it's about to go belly up. Oh,
Yeah.
things are about to get so terrible.
I think
It's like,
that's kind of the same way all throughout the entirety of human history. Now, granted, we have survivor bias, so
correct.
sorry, Neanderthals, things did go tits up for you.
Yeah, at some point they definitely did.
Yep. We never stopped to think about everyone who did experience catastrophic failure, because I don't fucking know who they are, because they didn't last. They didn't last. So maybe our time is next. I guess the only ones we really have good examples of are like the great empires that fell, like the Dutch Empire, the English Empire, the Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire. The You don't really often hear about the Amazonian Empire. That's not one that really took off. You don't really hear about there's a Spanish Empire, you know, tons of empires. The Chinese Empire, uh, shit, fuck if I know.
Yeah. By the
There's
way,
many
there's a
great
book.
empires. Go ahead.
There's a book on my shelf that it's a very small book, closer to a pamphlet. It is a story, or it's pretty much historical account of what happened to Spain back,
Mhm.
I want to say in like the 15 or 1600s when they were doing all the New World discovery stuff. And they actually had to deal with inflation when they just brought back a ton of gold. And they're like, we have so much gold, we accidentally expanded the money supply.
Yeah. Yep.
That was a real
Yeah.
thing.
And then
That is,
you get the real live Cantillon effect. And
yep.
then you also get the real live gentrification. And like, the analogy I bring up on the show oftentimes is like a bunch of pirates go out and they all live on one island. All these pirates live on one island and it's got its own little economy and it's like self-sustaining and everything. The pirates go out and they collect a whole bunch of money. And it's just money. It's not goods or services. And they bring the money back. Is the island is producing the same amount of goods and services, but now you've got a crazy inflated economic supply. And so the price of everything on the island skyrockets because now you got all these pirates that have boatloads of money. And so that you start seeing the Cantillon effect. All the prostitutes and all the alcohol stores, all of a sudden they get really wealthy. And then they're like, shit, now we got to buy groceries. And so they buy out all the grocery stores. And so the grocery stores start raising the prices. And everybody who's not a pirate, who did not go out and get a boatload of money, they can't get goods and services anymore because the pirates and the first, second, and third degree of money spending that came after the pirates, bringing all this economic, they just showed up with a whole bunch of measuring implements without producing any substance that gets measured. And so it's like,
Oh yeah.
yeah, the interesting that Spain did that. That's hilarious, Like, oh, we're gonna find more gold. That was one of the things that I remember thinking about. Have you seen Don't Look Up?
I've not seen it. I know of it.
Okay. One of the things that they say, like while the asteroid's like hurtling towards Earth, is like, oh, we predict that there's like 3 trillion pounds of gold on this asteroid, so we're gonna try and mine it after it strikes the Earth, and like, it's like it'll produce so many jobs because we're getting all this gold out. But it's like, if you don't produce the things that the gold is worth, then like it doesn't matter how many inches you can, how many like measurements of inches you can stuff on one ruler that is the same distance. If you just stuff more inches onto the same ruler, it's the same ruler. And like the people that aren't there, like building more inches and stuffing more inches on, like they're gonna get swept away by the people
You
that
have
are close to the inches
you have
creation
all
machine.
the money but nothing to buy.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So
Alrighty. Tell you what, that's pretty much all the notes that I had on this book. We pretty much covered everything. The floor is yours, sir. Do you have any questions for me? Questions about the book? What do you got?
is debt inherently bad?
No. Robert Kiyosaki, our rich dad. Debt is not inherently bad. Debt is a tool.
Debt
You
is
can
a
either
tool.
destroy yourself with it, or you can make yourself filthy rich like he is and have a total debt of over $1 billion. That is one of the things
There
that
you go.
he claims.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it's working for him. Fuck if I know.
That it is. Yeah. Debt Debt is not inherently bad. Debt is something that people have definitely gotten themselves in trouble with a lot. Just look at the existence of the Caleb Hammer financial audit channel. That is pretty much entirely made up of people who are using debt poorly. Um, and then the other example is Robert Kiyosaki. He's the guy that figured out how to leverage debt the best that he possibly could. Debt is a mechanism that allows us to do things and pay for it tomorrow so that we can do more things today. And if managed properly, the system won't collapse. If managed improperly, well, we get 2008.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my other question is like, being as Mises was like one of the main schools of thought that like was Austrian economics. Do you think that Bitcoin is the natural evolution of Austrian economics?
I think that it is to a degree.
Yeah.
I think that Bitcoin, or at least the original intention behind Bitcoin, it tries to tackle a lot of the problems, especially with the money supply, that the Austrian School of Economic highlights. They specifically call out money creation and money spending by governments and banks. And Bitcoin fundamentally is not able to do that. And it's by design too. Because you can't inflate Bitcoin. Yes, Bitcoin is being mined, so there's more of it every day, but it's on a predictable schedule that everyone can see and everyone knows. Additionally, there is no backdoor into the Bitcoin system that we know of today. There may be, but as far as code looks pretty dang near perfect. The overall idea of consensus about how they want to do it and possibly upgrade it in the future, the whole big block, small block debate. You got to go check out the book
human-
club episode we did on hijacking Bitcoin by Roger Ver. That
Yeah.
was a good one, by the way.
The human element. Yeah.
Correct. I got to say, I think outside of the technicality and the electrical requirements for it, Bitcoin as a money comes about as, I think it's the best one that has been developed up until this point. Just because it's the best doesn't mean it's going to perform the best. But I think from the fundamental standpoint, it answers a lot of the questions and a lot of the issues that the Austrian School of Economics has. So if these guys were still alive today, I bet you they'd be on board.
What do you think about Hex without an OA as a money unit, as a money system?
As a money system, it would probably perform decently. The inflationary aspect, I think, is part of what was the appeal of Hex at the time, which is that if you can just prolong or delay gratification, you will get like 36.9% APR on your money. That is a massive degree that is very, very attractive and what brought people in. Without the OA, was correct. Thank you.
Yeah.
Without the OA, that drops to 3.69%, which is closer to just it's like version 2 of Bitcoin. It's honestly closer to Ethereum, which is that Ethereum is inflationary by design. And that's part of how it works. And that appears to be working out pretty well also. But I think that Hex definitely falls into kind of like investment vehicle category for me as opposed to money. It technically does perform as a money, but just how it's coded and how it operates, I think it still stays in the investment vehicle lane for me.
Mm-hmm. I got to get rid of these because it's not real anymore. 38% APY. So I guess I got to take down my little signs that have been up here on for the longest time because that's not applicable anymore. So
yeah, I guess it's a real quick explanation for the folks at home. The way that Hex works is that the 3.69% inflation of the total supply is built into
maximum. It's
maximum.
Not,
yes,
it's not the actual. Right
but
now, I think
that's hard coded into the supply.
Yeah.
The way that you achieve that 36.9% was that the OA, when Hex was launched, held 90% of the tokens and did nothing with them. As a result of this, all of that inflation went to the remaining people. So your individual realized APR effectively was multiplied by a factor of 10 because you only had 10% of the supply that was actually being paid the inflation on it. The OA did stake it to reduce the amount of people that were constantly dumping the price of it. So it's this weird balance of like there's this giant whale account that has the ability to move. It originally started out as something that was not going to move, but then it did. So your numbers changed, but the underlying system itself did not. Just the players inside of it made different moves.
This is true. We are man, I don't know what the I just Googled what is the current inflation rate for Hex, and it gave me a bunch of gobbledygook that was not correct. So it's like, man, I won't know. I'd have to go and check like Hex model or something, but it's very low. It is very low. I want to say it's like 7 or 8%. Or no, 7 or 8% is the return. It's not the inflation.
As of yesterday, the APY rate plus EES penalties was 3.95%.
How is that possible with the 3.69 max? That's what I'm saying is like because like the total amount of Hex that's able to be created is 3.69 APY.
Yes.
Oh, so that's the rewards. That's not the inflation.
Yeah,
so that's like, yeah. So what is the average inflation rate? That's interesting. Because APYs used to be very nice and juicy, but that's because like only like 5 or 10% of the total supply of Hex was staked, and it was like if it was effectively like 1% per year. But now that almost all of the Hex in circulation is staked, it's like 95% or something like that. then I would imagine it's very close to 3.69%. So 3.6 or 3.5 would be my guess, but I have no reason to base that other than like a hunch. So I got no clue, but it's not really
There you go.
terribly worth dwelling on. So those just my quick little question is like, how would hex function as a currency with a lower inflation rate than the US dollar reduni? So
It would function decently
it would function
because
decent, yeah.
it is immutable code, cannot be changed. So
It's very
everything is
fungible.
Yeah, it's very predictable. It's fungible. It can be dang near infinitely divisible to a useful degree, anyways.
Mhm.
And it's very easily transactable. So it does meet all the requirements of what is a money, a currency, whatever you want to say.
Mhm.
And as far as the controls on it, the controls are locked. So it is predictable.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yeah. The origin address is the tricky part. That's where
Yeah.
like the control comes in, is because there's still like, daddy watching over his baby. And so it kind of like, it's like you can't really steer the ship until the Federal Reserve is not Federal Reserving anymore. So now that we have a Fed, surprise, you guys thought you didn't have a Fed. But anyways, I digress. Any things that you said we'd cover pretty much anything. Is there anything else that you had? That's all that I had, was those two little question roonies.
That's all that I got. All we got to do now is just, where does this fall on the 0 to 10,000 hour scale?
I would say that it falls right at 10,000 hours, because this book takes about 10,000 hours to consume, and that's about the amount of time you should spend consuming this book. One page at a time. Do it like a math book, right? You don't read the entire math book at once. And this book reads like a math book. So
Correct.
I think
Unfortunately,
that,
go for it, please.
it's too long to be in the beginning, and it's like the concepts are too basic to be at the end. So like I think this book just falls in like a really weird space of it should be everywhere. It would probably best be served if you consume it in little bitty chunks. I think little bitty chunks in the beginning would be my recommendation. Is you tackle one idea at a time, and this book would be very useful in the beginning of a financial and economics journey, I think.
I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Yeah,
I'm
you chunk
right.
it at the front.
Yeah, it's in a weird position because this information is very foundational to economics.
Yeah,
We have
it's wide and good at
expanded.
the front.
Yes, we have expanded on these topics to a very large degree in today's day and age, almost to the point where this book is honestly slightly obsolete. Like, the ideas are not obsolete, but this book itself, there are better sources for this information, and there are better ways to get this information.
Yep.
But the information is still very important. It's still very valid, I would argue. That's why it's in a really weird spot for me. I think that maybe somewhere around like the 3,000 hour mark would be decent for this one, because at that point, you got the basics, you got it mastered. What this book is going to offer you is maybe a new perspective of looking at things. Like, in particular, the relative value idea, I think, is something that people don't really think about on a day to day, but you intrinsically know. And it's just a nice little reminder to kind of expand the horizons, because at 3,000 hours, you've probably gone you got a good base. You've started to go deep in a few different areas, and this book might allow you to kind of connect some of those mental dots to start expanding your horizons and start looking in different directions about the same topics. So, yeah. Look, overall, am I going to recommend this book to people? Probably not. Is this kind of one of those ego plays that we chose? Also, yes, which is like, I've been told forever that this is a very fundamental book. It's the foundation of the Austrian School of Economics. It's like, yeah, I agree with you. Sure is. But at the same time, I didn't have to read this to learn everything inside of it.
I would agree with that. I think putting in the what'd you say, the ego, not ego stroking,
Stroking the ego, so you can.
It's like,
go to the
congratulations,
cocktail party.
I did this thing. It's like you watched a cult classic movie. That's how I would say it. We read a cult classic book.
I would argue you get a little bit more enjoyment out of the cult classic movies than this one.
100%.
Yeah.
We did a cult classic self-flagellation exercise, and
Slightly.
yeah,
But it was a good jumping
feel...
off point to discussion.
Yes. Yeah. People can definitely bond over shared trauma. I will say that that's yes. We didn't go to the moon because it was easy. We went because it was difficult. Mr. President, eating a pine cone is also very difficult, and I hear the Russians are halfway through their bag of pine cones. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Alrighty, tell you what, sir. Do you have
Case.
the thing? We got some people I want to give some shout outs to.
Yes. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, for round 2 of chat motherfucking shout outs.
Hey, shout out to everybody that came in. Apologies if we did not get to your comments live, but we see you guys and we appreciate all of you, especially Funkmaster Hex. He says, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Good evening to you, sir. Always tipping the glass. We see you. We're definitely enjoying some beverages as well to get through this one and keep the conversation flowing. But Moonpill Rational Optics didn't get you for the first shout out, but we see you all along the way. He had some good ones here. He says, we will tax you more, pay you less, and devalue the currency in order to get that 8% growth. We will. Well said, sir. And by the way, thank you, Arceus, for helping me out with the whole deflation question. You hit it on the head, and I was probably overthinking that one. I see you. Thank you very much.
Yep.
And for the folks that were interested, the weird court case and dare I say, a bit of a conspiracy theory that Will mentioned there is Jerome Daly versus First National Bank in 1968. Sounds like that would be on a true crime podcast. I'm not going to lie.
They ordered the judge to basically explain why he gave his decision, and then he died. And then they reversed the decision. And so this ruling is not there's no precedent to it. But like you can. The video that I posted is an audio sample, and I don't know if it's a real audio sample or if it's a recreation based off of the transcript. But you can go and check this case out, and like it's quite fascinating because the banker admits to the process by like it's not useful in like determining law and precedent and everything like that, but it is very useful in seeing the testimony on how banks actually fund loans. The banks don't fund a thing. You fund your own loans when you go to the bank and you get a loan for a car or for a mortgage or for a personal, whatever the fuck. You fund your own loan with the creation of the promissory note, and then you surrender the promissory note to the bank, and the bank trades it around for value in other places. And they add it to their books, which increases their their holdings, which used to be a requirement. Banks used to have a reserve, but now they don't. And so there's tons of things that happen with the promissory note, but basically people fund their own promissory note, and that's the thing that's important to learn from this court proceeding. So that might be fun to do for book club. Actually, is start doing case law stuff. I really want to do the slaughterhouse cases, or like there's some cool cases that, so like I've been going through Brandon Joe Williams' work, as I'm sure you know, and he cited a whole bunch of cases like the slaughterhouse cases, the oh shoot, what was the woman, Susan B. Anthony, who wanted to vote as a 14th Amendment citizen after the creation of the U.S. citizen. That would be a good one. USV or Chisholm v. something, and Erie Railroad v. California. When corporations were admitted into were admitted into being considered U.S. persons under under law and like having rights and things, and so like companies and railroads, and so like there's all sorts of like fun and interesting case law. So maybe one of these days we'll do cases and whatnot as part of book club. I think for now I'll stick to books until I at least know more of this stuff. But yeah, if you guys want to check out this case yourself, it's Jerome Daly v. First National Bank in 1968, and it happened in Minnesota, I believe. But yeah, the judge was like, they give him like a big spanking, and then he died. And then the dude who brought forth the complaint, Jerome Daly, actually represented himself. He went sue jury, I think, sui juris. I can't remember the word for it. But yeah, a fascinating. And then this YouTube link right here is just it's an audio sampling, and again, I don't know if it's real or if it's just a transcript like reenacted by AI or what it is, but that's where you guys can find that stuff. So please continue with the chat shadows, Zenith.
Sure, true. We got a few more I wanted to hit. Arceus did answer the question similar to the why did we go to the moon quote. We didn't do it because it was easy. We did it because we thought it would be easy.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Yeah. And Moonpill coming in with the final answer of why we did this. Pain has bragging rights. That's why
It
we did
does.
this.
It certainly does.
Oh,
Pain does
thought you
have
would like the
bragging rights.
dinner comment. Where's that one? Oh my gosh.
Dinner comment. Oh, they were eating at the same dinner the guy who invented the car that was fueled by water ate at. Oh yeah. Yeah, you hear about that one too. If we want to go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, we can certainly go down the conspiracy rabbit hole. Maybe we have to get Jerome from Conspiracy Crypto. Or not Jerome, Ramon from Conspiracy Crypto on here. Maybe go talk to Flat Earth Dave, who was super awesome and gave me a where's my Flat Earth? I have a Flat Earth thing that he gave me. It was here somewhere. He was at the Richard Hart trial. So shout out to Flat Earth Dave. Shout out to Ramon. Shout out to all the conspiracy peoples. Shout out to everybody. You are fucking awesome. Here's to the chats. And shout out to where was Matty Allen? Matty Allen was both here on YouTube and he was here on Twitter. So thank you, Matty, for boosting our metrics on all of the different platforms. We love you, broski. And thank you to our #1 ninja watcher, Mr. Battle Hardened Sniper. I'm quite positive he's out there because he has reacted to the link that I posted in the DJ Roundtable Telegram. So shout out to you, Sniper. I can sense your presence. So it's good to see you, broski.
Alrighty, sir. That is pretty much all we have for this evening. So where can the folks find you and what do you have going on in the near future?
The folks can find me in Colebrook, New Hampshire, and you guys can find me in the DJ Roundtable Telegram. And maybe Concord, New Hampshire, or Manchester, or hopping all around. Those are my new places. Going on in the near future, starting a new cell tower job, so that's going to be fun. They sent me an offer, and I accepted. So I am now employed, which means that I guess it's back to difficult streaming hours, working 50, 60 hours a week, and just barely making it to stream by the skin of my teeth. So that's going to be happening for me in the near future. A lot more streams on the mobile, streams on the go. And for next week's book club, let's decide for next week's book club. What are we going to do? I'm just going to go to the DJ Roundtable Book Club. I'm going to go to book suggestions, and I'm going to pick. Not that one. Oops. That was a how to be a very good master debater. Master Debate Like a Champ with These 99 Easy Steps by BJ Nom Nom. We're not going to do that one, but I had to say that because that's fucking hilarious. Thank you, thank you, Marcus, and thank you, Just Live, for making very real and serious book club suggestions. Oh man, I think for book club,
Moonpilled might have something for you, so you don't have to decide today.
Moonpill. No, I want to decide today because I like giving folks an entire week to read it. Let's see. Oh, damn, we've already done The Way of the Superior Man. We're going to do The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. That's going to be our next book for book club. So The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin will be the next book that we cover on book club. So make sure you guys read it. And that's going to be the one. Zenith, where can the folks find you and what do you have going on in the near future?
Folks, like Will said, you can find me and him and the rest of the gang over here at DRT inside of our Telegram, and you can get there by scanning this QR code right there. That'll take you inside of the Telegram where you can find the ongoing chat where we talk about everything going on in crypto, tokens we like, don't like, market action, how it makes us feel, and all that kind of stuff. Outside of that, we're going to be back on Sunday for our flagship news show, 8 p.m. Eastern time, as is all of our shows. We're going to be talking about the latest and greatest going on in the crypto world and what it means for all of us. Outside of that, we're going to be back on Wednesday for a Whiskey Wednesday, which is an opportunity for you, the community, to hop on here with us, chat with us about anything that you guys like, don't like, or anything that's piquing your interest. And then, yes, like Will said, we're going to be back next week covering the 4 tendencies on book club. And again, like everything, all streams start at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And that is what we got going on over here. If you want to follow me, you can follow me on X and Instagram at ZenithDI. But outside of that, that is what we have for you here tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for spending your valuable time here with us on the DGen Roundtable. As we say around here, we know that time is your most valuable asset, and we appreciate you investing it right here with us every time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Zenith, but more importantly, you have been watching the DGen Roundtable. So, Mr. Producer, aka me, go ahead and get that trigger finger ready, because it's time to remind all the folks at home to remember to DGen responsibly.